When it comes to our individual cultural backgrounds, we are also colorful and unique. Each of us have our own stories to tell and history that has been passed down generation by generation. For instance, my mom moved to the United States from Manila, Philippines in 1975 when she was 21 years old. She has shared many experiences with me, both the good and the bad. Ever since I was a little girl, stories of her culture and the way she grew up have always fascinated me. Someday, I hope to explore the Philippines myself. The timeline on the website philippinehistory.org breaks down the historical events of how the Philippines became their own independent country. Starting all the way back to 1521, explorer Ferdinand Magellan discovered the islands and named them the archipelago of San Lazaro. In 1542, Spanish expedition commander Roy Lopez de Villalobos named the islands after Prince Philip, and they became part of the Spanish Empire. The Treaty of Paris ended the war a year later, and the U.S. bought the Philippines from Spain for $20 million. In 1901, Spanish General Aguinaldo was captured, and William Howard Taft became the first U.S. governor of the Philippines. Taft greatly improved the economic conditions of the Philippines and created the Pensionado program, which allowed Filipinos to study in the United States. In 1934, U.S. Congress approved the Tidings-McDuffie Law that gave promise of independence to the Philippines by 1946. That promise was made, and on July 4th, 1946, Manuel Roxas Acuna was elected as first president of the new republic. Here's a picture of the Philippines gaining their independence in the Life International magazine. The Republic of the Philippines forms an archipelago which consists of three main areas. Those three areas include the largest, most northern island, Luzon, a group of multiple islands called the Visayas, and the second largest island in the south called Mindanao. NationalGeographic.com tells us that there are around 7,640 islands on the Philippines. Out of all those islands, only about 2,000 are actually inhabited. There are countless attractions to visit for tourists. The city of Manila is the nation's capital city, and it is known as the Pearl of the Orient. Binondo is considered the city's very own Chinatown. Davao City is the largest city in the Philippines, and there you can find Mount Apo, which is the highest mountain in the republic. Tourists can also find Eden Nature Park and Malagos Garden Resort, which has a really cool chocolate museum. Cebu City is the country's oldest city, and it is one of the birthplaces of Christianity in the Philippines. There, tourists can find many places to swim off the coast. The city of Vigan dates back to the Spanish colonial era, found on the island of Luzon, and it is known as the UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is jam-packed with Asian and European design. Here is a picture of a carriage on cobblestone streets in Vigan from Hotels.com. Beaches are never scarce in the Philippines as well. El Nido is part of Palawan Island, where white sand beaches, coral reefs, and clear fish-filled waters are found. Camiguin is known as the island born of fire because it is a pear-shaped island that's had 7 different volcanoes form its attraction sites. It's full of lagoons, hot springs, pristine waterfalls, and fine white sand beaches as well. Kaluit Island and Sargio are also popular destinations to find ocean life. Filipinos have many cultural values and are extremely family-oriented. Not only would a Filipino do anything for their family and loved ones, but they are very hospitable, hardworking, and respectful as well. And religion is very important to Filipino culture, and according to CultureAtlas.com, 92.5% of Filipinos identify themselves as Christian. Almost 89% are Catholic, 2.8% are Evangelical Christian, and 2.3% are Iglesia Ni Cristo. The remaining percentages are of other religions. When it comes to food, the Filipinos don't mess around. The dishes are so delicious, and meals are prepared to serve an army. A lot of dishes include many native vegetables, meat, seafood, and unique spices and seasonings particular to the region. Rice is served at every meal, and a lot of dishes are prepared as stew. Famous Filipino dishes include adobo, kare-kare, lechon, sinigang, pata, pancit, and sisig. If you have time, you can look these scrumptious meals up on culturaltrip.com. Proper etiquette is very important also in Filipino culture. According to cultureatlas.com, it is appropriate to dress modestly, especially when you're out in public. Respect for the elderly is essential, and those which have a high social class must be treated with respect as well. My mom told me that the elderly must always be taken care of and they don't really believe in nursing homes. The elderly will only go to the doctor if it's a dire, life changing illness or emergency. Otherwise, the kids will take care of their parents. Stereotypes happen in every culture too. However, I find some Filipino stereotypes to be quite funny. CultureTrip.com mentions how there is such thing as Filipino time, which means they typically don't arrive at their destination until about 1 or 2 hours after the designated time. Another absurd stereotype is that Filipinos like to eat dog meat. Yes, it is true that some indigenous colonies and their ancestors have eaten dog meat, but you wouldn't just find dog on a menu at a restaurant. On goodnewsfromindonesia.com, they mention a few hilarious stereotypes that are mostly true. Yes, Filipinos love to karaoke. Yes, they eat rice almost every day. And yes, they love Manny Pacquiao. The funniest one I know from personal experience with my mom and Filipino family and friends is that they mix English words with their language, mostly being Tagalog. One stereotype that is far from humorous, however, is that Filipinos aren't educated. In fact, most of them can speak more than one language, and most of them are highly educated individuals. Another stereotype that isn't true is how the country is dangerous. Just like any other country, there are dangerous parts that people don't want to travel to due to terrorist incidents. However, the news and social media hypes up tragedy and misfortune more than necessary. In our first What's the Bag speech, one of my lies was that happened to be that I went on vacation to the Philippines with my mom and brother. Like I had mentioned in the beginning, I really do long to visit my family overseas and learn more about my native culture. We should all be proud of who we are and always seek knowledge of our past to carry into the future.